Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Rooted in Wellness, a weekly chat about how I've created some classroom systems and communities so that I stick to contract hours and absolutely love my teaching job, even all these years later. So, Healthy Roots Wellness is an instructional coaching and wellness business founded by myself, and I'm a 13-year-old veteran teacher, 13 years old. 13-year veteran teacher with 16 years of experience in the wellness and fitness space. And our whole mission is to empower teachers and educators around the world to stay committed to their profession without the burnout. It is possible, believe it or not. We really strive here at Healthy Roots Wellness to reinvent how students learn by providing meaningful resources dedicated to keeping teachers organized, energized, passionate about their profession and about their work without all the gaslighting drama that can make teachers feel really, really small. By helping teachers and educators maintain optimal well-being, which is your physical health, your emotional health, and your mental health, really kind of aligning it with your personal growth within your school and your district. Our value proposition allows teachers everywhere and anywhere to access the tools that enable them to stay absolutely on top of their game all year round. And it's just something that I'm super passionate about. I am currently in the classroom. I've been in the classroom for the last 13 years. I did step out of the classroom last year to do more of an administrative instructional coaching role, but I am back in the weeds. And so you're literally hearing this like from a teacher perspective and lens. Listen, this channel is not fancy. These are not, I don't edit them. When I make a Freudian slip, I just keep it here. You heard already 3 of them probably so far in the introduction. Teacher to teacher, I don't have time for fancy. So here we go. This week is all about the first day of school. Setting the tone for the school year on the very first day is one of the most important moments in our 9-month experience with our classroom community. A very structured first day plan helps students feel confident and comfortable. It establishes expectations, and it also sets up the routines for the entire year. As a teacher, it is absolutely crucial that we establish that positive classroom community where students feel safe, supported, and part of the team. In this week's video, we are going to deep dive and explore the benefits of a structured first day plan, a classroom community, creating classroom agreements to eliminate any sort of like confusion when it comes to our students, and why student voice matters when it comes to classroom expectations. So I'm actually going to walk you through my first day plans. And if you follow me on social media, you saw me kind of post a little bit about what this kind of looked like, right? And even being 13 years in, I still have yet to find the perfect first day, mainly because perfection just simply doesn't exist, right? And especially in a classroom when we're dealing with so many unique, amazing personalities. Now, I will caveat this and say that I work in elementary school. So I'm upper elementary. I teach grade 5. So you might have to, once again, just like I say every single week, we're going to presume positive intent on this channel. We are going to talk to each other in the comments and through here with respect and compassion and empathy, and take what you can take and leave what you can't. Right. So even if you teach upper, secondary or low secondary, and you're like, this isn't going to work for me at all. Okay, well, I'm sorry, it's not going to work for you at all then. But I really do believe that the foundation of this conversation is classroom community. So I'm going to encourage you, even if you do teach secondary, to kind of just stick around and listen to it a little bit, because I think you might walk away with at least something that you can kind of take and apply almost immediately. Right. So if you are on my email list, and if you're not, you just go to briannasilvio.com, grab a resource. Any resource, paid or free, will get you on the email list. If you are on the email list, you are going to get a copy of this template presentation. The template is important because once you make a template of it, just like in Google Slides, you can make a copy of this on your Canva account. And if you do not have a Canva educator account, what you doing with your life? Okay, get you this. It's so easy, it's so simple, and it's free with an ISD email address. So you're going to make a copy of this and now it's completely editable. So anything that's personal to me on this template, you can edit out, but you can still get those kind of backbones and structures for it. So when my students walk in on the first day, of course, I meet them at the door, and remember that energy tone is everything, especially in those first few moments. Just like the first time you met your principal or your assistant principal or your co-teachers or your pod leaders or whatever the case may be. First impressions really do matter. And so of course, we're meeting children at the door. We're saying, good morning, how are you? Getting to know them on a personal level, right? But pretty much right from the get-go, I dive right in with slide decks because that is how I teach my class. 99.9% of the time, there will be some sort of agenda or a welcome screen in my room. It's one of the systems that I have in my classroom where it alleviates a lot of the pressure of what are we doing today, Miss Silvio? What are we doing today, Miss Silvio? What are we doing today, Miss Silvio? It takes that off of me and it really kind of puts that into the hands of the kiddo. Now, of course, if you teach lower elementary where maybe they can't read yet, you're going to have to kind of figure out ways to maybe support a little bit, maybe less text on the screen and more picture-based, right? So I just warned them, we're going to get to know each other today. I can take absolutely no credit for this get to know me game. I found it on TikTok. I do not remember her handle right now, but if you scroll back in my TikTok, I did stitch this video with her. Instead of the traditional, like, this is me. I have 2 kids. I have 2 dogs. I've been a teacher for 13 years. We gamify it, right? And I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. Every kiddo will have, I do tables. I don't do rows or columns, anything like that. So I have a table of 4 people. I give them a pink piece of paper, a yellow, a blue, and a green. That represents the 4 answer choices. I push a question up on the board, and with their table, they use their inferencing skills and collaboration and figure out what they think the answer is. Then they hold up the paper that they believe the answer to be. And then I kind of duplicate the slide with a little bit of a Bitmoji. And they, they have a good laugh about it. I only did 1 question, but I actually do have this full slide deck in my whole child bundle, which you can also find on my website, briannasilvio.com, and you can make a copy of it and then edit out the questions and the answers to reflect you as well. So this is how we kick off our day. What I found is that something like this keeps it very light. It keeps it very engaging. And also, I start to make observations of how well the students work together in the groups that they have either A, chosen themselves if I've let them pick, or B, if I guided them to a table, like, sit at number 1, sit at number 2, sit at number 3, sit at number 4, which is technically what I try to do. I don't let them just free sit. Most likely whoever they're standing next to in line is their bestie. Not that I want them sitting apart from their bestie. I think that good friends can be great table mates, but just for me, I like to see every student brings a unique power, and I like to see what that power is. And sometimes when we're super duper comfortable, we don't flex that power as much as possible, or we overflex that power. So I like to keep it random, but it's totally your call. So that's how we start the day. This game takes about 20 to 23 minutes, depending on how much talking I do afterwards. Sometimes they want to know more details. Like, for example, every time the question comes up, Miss Silvio has taught at, and the pink I have is elementary school, middle school, high school, and then the Department of Corrections, right? And nobody ever guesses that I've taught at all of those levels before. And so they always want to know, what was it like teaching in high school? What was it like teaching for the Department of Corrections? So when you got really unique things about you, they want to know that information. And as long as it's safe to share, I always recommend that we share. Let them into your ecosystem, because that's going to help build their trust within you. So we start with that game. Then after that game, we've kind of gotten a lot of talking and a lot of laughing out of the way, right? So now I tend to kind of rein it back in. Up next is what I like to do called my roster and systems check. And I like to do this really easy checklist. These are the big rocks that I want to know by the first day of school. And I'm going to show you how I actually record all of this information for myself. Again, this is kind of setting that tone for the rest of the school year. It's also providing a big sense of predictability and organization where students feel more comfortable and relaxed. Students, especially down here in elementary and primary grades, structure is so necessary for them to actually build trust. We don't realize that maybe as much as we should, but it's also a really great time to emphasize your personal classroom values. Because I am a very organized, structured person, it allows them to see, okay, Miss Sylvia is going to be boom, 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 and boom. And in my 13 years of experience, this has been really well received by all types of students that I have instructed. So we're taking the time to kind of carving out the whole day around like my personality, but in addition theirs, and you'll see that here in just a second. So I go over attendance, right? I go over every single kiddo. Do you want to be, maybe your name is, I don't know, maybe your name is Brianna, but you want to be called Bree. So we get to know each other that way. How do you get home? For me down in secondary, this is important. Write out your schedule and your agenda. My campus has agendas. So they've got their agendas out and they're writing down block 1, I see Miss Silvio. Block 2, I see Miss so-and-so. Block 3, I see Mr. So-and-so. So they're kind of doing all that. They also get a class number and a locker number during this time. I warn them ahead of time. I let them know, guys, this is going to be a little bit dry and I'm going to ask for your grace and I'm going to ask for you to just be flexible with me right now because every single student and I need to have this conversation. So I, of course, let in the downtime, they draw, they can read. We don't do technology the first week of school, so they don't have any devices to get on at this time, but they're kind of just giving each other grace. Most of the time, believe it or not, they just wait patiently for me to call their name, to talk about how they get home, to write out their schedule, to get their class number and to get their locker number, because they're also getting to know each other as well here. This is the form that I use to take those notes. So I have, you'll see along the bottom, I've got my homeroom, block 1, block 2, and then I've also got my duty. So this is like my personal duty. And then plan B is what we call our emergency subplan. I call this my all-in-one document. Keeping all of my important information in one spot is so clutch for me, somebody who is super organized, but also I run a little bit on the ADHD side, and sometimes my brain moves too quick for my own good. And before I know it, I'll look up and I'll have 18,000 documents that pretty much say the same thing, but they felt really good in the moment to create. And so I created it, and it was a total waste of my time. So I tried really hard to make this all in one, like my one-stop shop, right? And you'll also have a copy of this in the whole child bundle as well. So then after all of this, and this process, depending on my roster count, this takes about 30 to 35 minutes. On years where I have, 25 or more students, this is looking closer to about a 45 to 50-minute experience. Then we go into our supplies. So now they get to get that wiggle out again, right? So now we're onto school supplies. Depending on the area in which you teach, this can be a very big deal, or this can be not a big deal at all. And here's what I mean by that. In the past, I've had probably 90% of my students not have school supplies, whether it's due to financial strain or just not knowing what to buy. Mostly financial strain. So I'm used to just not really having a lot of, stuff to kind of go through, but this year was different. A lot of my students had a lot of their stuff. So we took the time and we talked about it. So you could see the visual support, right? You've got your spiral notebooks. What do I want it to look like? So in the upper right-hand corner, name and subject. And I'm going over this, modeling it for them. Then we're going over same thing, their folders, visual support, in addition to modeling for them. You might be thinking to yourself, is that really necessary to model for them? It depends on you. I like structure and routine. And so for me, it is important. You might just say, put your name on all of your supplies. And that's great. And then it goes into their agenda. And so this is kind of, again, like that first page in our agenda is blank white. And so over here, I tell them, let's make this your one-stop shop. And maybe they can't remember their ID number. Maybe they can't remember their schedule because we don't have printouts like secondary does. They have to kind of remember it all. And that can be a lot for, you know, a 10-year-old. So I'm going over with them, like, what do I want your agenda to kind of look like here? And what's its purpose? After this process, this can take, you know, however amount of time it is, they're ready to get up and move. So we do our first community building activity, which is called cup stacking. Cup stacking involves very little prep from you, but there is a little bit of a financial strain to this game here. So if you are not interested in spending your own money, or maybe you have these things at home already, it wasn't super duper expensive, but I do want to preface it with, it is not a no prep, no cost activity. I just reuse the same thing every single year. And so it worked out just fine for me. I didn't have to pay anything this year. So it's solo cups. Each group gets 10 of them. It's like 6-inch pieces of yarn, and it's 1 rubber band. And the goal is this: I split them into teams of 4. My recommendation is whoever they're sitting with right now, whatever table environment they're in, put them with a different 4. As the teacher, we want to be observing their energy and their behavior around different groups of kids, so that, you know, when it comes to the next week, or if you have to move kiddos around based on their personalities, you're having a good idea of, okay, I can't put student A and student B together because they just go at it all the time. Or student D, E, and F, they've been best friends since kindergarten and they're just over there yapping away, right? Nothing wrong with any of those things, but just kind of, you know, work smarter, not harder, and move them around the room a lot. So I split them into teams of 4 kids. Each team receives 10 solo cups, 1 rubber band, and 4 5 to 6 inch pieces of yarn. The task is to pile all of the cups up in a stack, tying the yarn outside of the rubber band, only using the tool to lift up and down. I'm going to show you what that looks like for my visual people. So their goal, their task is to work together collaboratively to figure out, how do we get the cup from the ground, okay, up and stacking it up. So you can see they have to work together. They all have to pull at the same time. If they don't, the cup falls down. They're allowed to use 1 finger to flip it up, and then they go back at it. And the task is to transfer all 10 cups to stacking 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then once they get all 10, they decompose the tower the exact same way. They take off the first one, then they take off the second, they take off the third, they take off the fourth. It's up to you with how strict you want to make the rules. For my first block, it took them a really long time to figure out that slow and steady wins the race here. And so they actually went right up. I gave 20 minutes to do this activity. They went right up to the 20-minute marker without too many teams getting through the whole task. But my next block, they caught on really, really quickly. And I found myself kind of, okay, they were done in about 10 minutes. So what's the pivot? Then I made it a little bit harder. I said, okay, instead of stacking it, see how those kiddos are all kind of close together? I made them go stack it on a different table. So just kind of elevating the experience a little bit. It gets them talking, it gets them moving, it gets them out of their chairs and into a different area of the classroom. After we've taken that break and we started to build that community, of course, I'm going around to every group, giving massive positive feedback that's verb-based. We're going to talk more about verb-based positive feedback when we talk about fixed and growth mindset. But for right now, just kind of let me expose that to you, right? And then after that, we go back to our desks and we take a tour of the classroom. And I mean a tour, guys. I mean, get up, push your chair in. We are all walking to, I do it like a clock. We all start at 12 o'clock and then we work our way around the room. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And I give them opportunities to ask questions and kind of set the tone for what each area is for and its purpose. Then I go into, probably one of the most important tasks, I might argue, to build classroom community and trust with our students It's called I Wish My Teacher Knew. On a note card, I have them write their name and just a very simple 3 to 5 minute quick write on what is something that I wish my teacher knew. It can be personal or it can be school related. Some of this, I will warn you a little bit, some of this is deep, and some of this is it's sometimes hard to read, but it's going to give you a really good idea of what your students are going through. And it creates a lot of compassion and empathy in the classroom. And then we move on to our fixed and growth mindset. So now we're just fresh off of I wish my teacher knew. Maybe you've had recess between now, maybe you've had specials, maybe you've had snack, maybe you've had bathroom break. Of course, you're just going to incorporate your normal schedule. This is just kind of a one flow presentation. I always start this portion of the day with a video about a soccer team on a small island in Thailand. Once you get the template, you'll be able to go to this video directly. It's on YouTube, and it's subtitled, and it is a phenomenal true story about this soccer team that literally is on a floating island, and they had absolutely no field to play in or practice on, and they go on to just completely overcome all of the adversities that they faced. It's about 5 minutes long. Highly recommend watching it because it really springboards the conversation for students to talk about what is a fixed versus growth mindset. There is a podcast that, if you are interested in learning more about fixed and growth mindset, by Dr. Andrew Huberman, and his podcast handle is called the Huberman Lab. And this podcast is, I'm trying to get you guys the exact thing. I'll put it in the notes if I can. But essentially, it is a podcast about what fixed versus growth mindset actually is, and how teachers and adults, and actually kids in general, we really should be doing verb-based growth mindset conversation. You're so smart is not as effective as I loved how when you multiplied 3 times 2, you used the double method in your head. Like giving them praise off of a verb or an action that they are doing research has shown to be much more effective within the growth mindset category. So after we watch the video, I have them get with their tables and I ask a very simple question. Did the soccer team have a fixed or growth mindset, and why? And I give them 5 minutes here to collaborate and talk about what they think, and then we do a share out. After we do the share out, I give them poster paper. This can be anchor chart paper. It can be just plain white computer paper if you don't have access to larger poster paper. And I have them go over what a fixed and growth mindset is. Decor is completely up to you. Some of the stuff that I have seen my students do on this has been absolutely beautiful. I mean, I've had one student a couple of years ago where they drew a big flower pot, and they drew it like very three-dimensional. The petals of the flower were vibrant and colorful and big, beautiful petals. And all the growth mindset stuff was kind of all the flourishing, and it went all the way from the root system all the way up through the stem. But then they sketched like shriveled dead leaves and dead flowers on the bottom of the poster to represent the fixed mindset. Just amazing. What our kids will do is just, when we don't give them a bunch of, box them in, just let them fly here. And we really want to talk about what fixed and growth mindset looks like, feels like, and sounds like. This activity this last year took me 30 minutes. They were really, really into it. In the past, it's taken me anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes, I would say. After we establish that our classroom is a classroom of a growth mindset, now we know what it looks like, what it sounds like, and what it feels like. We're putting that anchor chart up somewhere in the room so that we can reflect on it later. Then we move into our class agreement. Our class agreement is a class treaty, you might have heard it be called, is where we take time and I don't do classroom rules. And the kids are always like, oh, what do you mean you don't do rules? I say, I don't have rules in this classroom. We will come to an agreement of how you should treat each other, how I should treat you, and how you should treat me. And it's a conversation. I'm not telling you how I want to be treated. I want us to have a conversation together. And so we do just that. We take the time to collaborate with their tables and agree on one word or one phrase that their table wants for the agreement. After each section of our pie graph is complete, we all sign it. And that also stays up in my room all year long because we are a community. And I understand that some people, maybe that are not in education, don't really realize that community is necessary for your mental and emotional health as a classroom teacher. Because without building trust and safety within our students and within the classroom that we work in literally 8 to 10 hours a day, it is going to unravel. You are going to get burnt out. This is something that we do to develop relationships with kiddos so that when the seasons get turbulent, which they will, the buy-in to doing the next best thing is stronger. Now, is this a great conversation? Yes. Is there nuance? Yes. I am not going to be the teacher that just pretends like just build relationships and you'll be fine. Sometimes that's not true and that's not realistic. But again, we're presuming positive intent. We're doing the best that we can with the information that we have. And that's what my whole spiel is about. I am not here to gaslight you and pretend like everything is rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns in the classroom every day when it's not, because that's not the reality. But what we can control is stuff like this. Okay. So I just had to I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but just expressing my passion on social media with community building has also led to a really challenging conversation with non-educators that don't think that that's very effective for what we do. I respectfully disagree, but that's okay. It's okay to disagree as well. After we go over our treaty, then it moves into a little bit more of a structure. So you if you've developed a pattern, we're developing a pattern here. I let them, have fun, get loud, all the things. We do an activity, and then we kind of come back together. Same thing, fun, activity, interactive, and then we come back together. So now we practice how to get my attention. This is going to be all you. This is just what I've developed over 13 years. I like simple. It's just me. So bathroom, I have a question, pencil up, I'm done, or I'm ready with whatever the task is. When is it okay to stand up and walk to me while I'm with students? Now, this is really upper elementary, right? So they're developing some control of their body still. So I break it down. You don't feel good. That's a good time to come up to me if I'm with students. You're hurt physically or emotionally. That's a good time. You have an emergency. That's a good time. And then this last one is a joke, $1 million. Then that's a good time as well. And they always laugh at that one. Teacher humor. If you need me, raise your hand. If I don't see you, you may call out my name after 3 minutes. The reality is it never gets to 3 minutes. I mean, our eyes are always up and moving around. You know what I'm saying? But I let them know, don't just raise your hand and then Miss Silvio, because I get that a lot. I don't know if you get that a lot, but the hand goes up and it's like, Miss Silvio. And it's like, just wait a second, just give me a moment to see you. And then I will always ask, again, developing that relationship with them. If I'm busy or in the moment, or it's not a good time for a question, I'll ask, is it an emergency? I do this with my own kids too. They always are honest about it for the most part, because they know what's an emergency and what's not. And I say, okay, can we circle back to this? Write it down on a Post-it so you don't forget it. Then we practice our call and response. You'll have your own, of course. This needs to be discussed though. Call and response means I need to get your attention, and it could be a safety thing. So when we call and response, you stop, you look, and you listen. And we practice the call and responses for a solid 7 minutes until they're annoyed with me, And now we're back to another interactive portion of our first day expectations. We go over the lunch expectations. but I don't talk about the lunch expectations. I ask them to come up with the lunchroom expectations. Then they do the exact same thing for the recess. I don't tell them the expectations of recess. I have them come up with their own. They're writing it down on paper and they're working with a collaborative group. Hallway expectations. This one sometimes is a little bit tricky, okay? Because every teacher will have them move in a hallway differently. I'm a big fan of just, let's get to where we're going as fast as possible. So I like single file line. And I do hall procedure, which that'll be a slide here at the end. And then I always like to show them like, this ain't it. Okay, that ain't it. Hall, hands by side, all eyes forward, lips closed, and low speed. Arrival expectations when they come to school. This is going to be unique to you. This is what works for me in my school. We put lunch and backpack away. We get block 1 materials, water and snack. We begin morning work. We take a deep breath and we take care of ourselves. What do we need? We need a bathroom. We need a sip of water. What do we need? Dismissal expectations. I do go over these. Homework. I left a slide in here for homework. You can put your policy here. Grading policy, you can put it here. When you're absent, you can put it here. And then we go over what it will be like in our classroom every day. This is something that I added on last year. Every year I go over, I make my first day experience different. Every year, something doesn't go the way that I want it to go. Every year for the last 13 years, okay? This is something that I wrote down last year. Show them a sample lesson. And I mean a sample lesson, guys, because some schools, some districts don't want you to do any sort of content the first day, which I understand. I'm not talking about like, let's do this whole long division lesson and algebra. No, I'm talking that. I'm talking, let them know, what is it going to look like when you come into this classroom? What is your do now going to look like? And let's talk about it. We always stop, drop, and breathe with me. Every day, every class period, don't care what's happening that day. This slide never goes away. Then I show them kind of a sample mini lesson. Not necessarily to have them actually solve it, mainly so that that shock and awe of what is it going to be like in this classroom is taken away. I don't want them shocked and nervous. I don't want kids scared and nervous. I want kids empowered and comfortable and relaxed. And for me, I know that just slightly exposing them to what it's going to be like every day helps calm those nerves so that it's not a big surprise come content day 1. Then I give table jobs, or well, rather they choose their table job. By now, I have put them in probably at least 3 to 4 different groups. And I have a very good idea of who works with whom. Table jobs might be for day 3 or day 4 for you. For me, I was able to find good groups for them by the end of day 3. But in the past, I have done day 1. I've known pretty much right away. It just depends on the group. It really does. I always have tables of 4, maybe 5, depending on my class size. Captains, I always like to make the joke. Your captain is not the bossy one. Your captain is the kind one. The captain is what keeps everybody on track. For example, let's say student A and student B start getting in a shouting match because somebody is messed up a problem. The captain comes in and, hey guys, hey, this ain't it. Let's take a step back. They vote on who does what. Tech support, I might be a millennial. I might have grown up with a phone. I don't understand Chromebooks. Not even a little bit. So, and these kids do. So I always have a tech support person, because if it's, I don't know how to connect to the internet, baby, me neither. Okay. Table organizer, I'm just a stickler for right angles and clean tables. And then material manager, this is my person that comes to me to get worksheets. If a pencil breaks, they are the only ones that are allowed to stand up and go to the sharpener. If the group needs expo markers, highlighters, whiteboards, whatever, that's what their job is. These jobs change, and their tables change. Sometimes I'll do it quarterly. Sometimes I'll do it once a month. It really just kind of depends. And then I say goodbye to them. And of course, you know, it's like I said, it's completely editable for you. I know this was kind of a long one this week, but I really do believe that take the time to clean up that first day. Don't leave a lot of downtime. Give yourself some backup activities as well. Give yourself some backup, you know, all about me pages, or, you know, word searches, or dot to dot. First day is going to set a tone. If you have a terrible first day, can you come back from it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, you can. Even if it's your fourth day and you're stumbling upon this YouTube video, it's okay. Go back, start over. Tell them that, own that with them. Guys, listen, day one was a hot mess express. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what happened. I don't know how you felt. How did you guys feel? What do you think? Can we just have a do-over? Can we have a do-over? Let them in. Let them in. Build up that trust. Build up that empathy. Deposit into that emotional bank account. What happens on the other side of this? You might be wondering that, right? You might be wondering that. What happens on the other side of this? What exhausted me the most as a teacher, year 5-ish, was the behaviors. Okay. And this was before COVID. Once I started with systems and prioritizing more structured routines, my day-to-day life got so much easier. My energy was elevated. I didn't come home and need a freaking nap every single day. And I have to come home and parent my own children and run my own household. You know what I'm saying? So like, it might feel very new right now if you're not used to this type of structure and routine, but I promise you on the other side of it, you're going to find so much more energy and so much less overwhelm and less overstimulation, because these structures will be in place. You can go back to things like the fixed and growth mindset when a student is having a hard day. You can go back to the class treaty when they're not treating each other the way that they should be treating, or when they're not treating themselves the way that they should be treating. How many times have you heard a kid talk so badly about themselves? Don't allow it. Don't let it happen. So, sorry, it was a long one. I'm sorry, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week, your weekend. Do something for yourself. Go stand out in the sun, not here in Texas because it's 195 degrees outside, but go take care of yourself in some physical, emotional, or mental capacity. Again, my name is Brianna. I am so honored to have you here. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to watch this video. I'll see you guys later. Bye.